The nervous system. The nervous system is divided in two parts: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system has two important organs: the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is compounded by all the nerves that travel around your body, and it connects all of the nerves in your spinal cord to the rest of your body. Spinal nerves control the functions of muscles and organs in your body. Besides the heart, the brain is one of the most important organs in our body because it connects our life, our body, with the world in many different ways. We think, we produce, we speak, we share, we feel, and we can even make things. Our brain also works like a bag where we store intelligence and knowledge. We store thoughts and also we store desires. Our brain is like a control center of the body because it is going to guide what we do, what we want, and even what we don't want. In our brain, we have millions and millions and millions of cells. These cells are called neurons. Neurons are responsible for sending electricity throughout our body. There are different types of neurons in our brain, but they all have the same structure. They have a nucleus, they have dendrites, they have a soma, they have a myelin sheath, and they have an axon. The tail of the neuron has two important parts called the Schwann cells and the node of Ranvier. Stimulus and response. What happens when your little brother jumps out from behind the sofa and yells, "Boo"? You get startled. When your brain is presented with a stimulus, it produces a reaction called a response. So for example, if you burn your hand, that's a stimulus, and the reaction is the response. The process between stimulus and response is that the stimulus sends a message to the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron sends the message to the central nervous system. The central nervous system sends the message to the motor neuron, and that motor neuron will produce the response. When you cut your finger, you feel pain. And that is an example of stimulus and response. When you touch a hot pan and you burn your hand, You pull your hand away because it is painful. That is another example of stimulus and response. Two more situations that are controlled by the nervous system, especially by the brain, are voluntary and involuntary actions. For example, yawning is involuntary because you cannot control it. If you like green mangoes, what happens in your mouth when you see the fruit? Salivation starts happening. You start producing saliva. Salivation is involuntary. You cannot control it. It only happens naturally and it is controlled by your brain. But there are actions that are voluntary. You can control them. For example, if you want to give a present, you decide what to buy and who you want to give it to. That is voluntary. Other examples of voluntary actions are reading, writing, studying, drawing, speaking, and also smiling. Crying is involuntary. Laughing is also involuntary. But reading books or going to the theater or writing books is voluntary. You decide if you want to do it or when to do it, and you can also decide what you want to read or what you want to write. Studying is also voluntary. You decide when to study, where to study, what to study, and for how long to study. You can even decide what you want to study at the university and what profession you want to follow. Art is also voluntary. You decide if you want to paint or if you want to draw. You can also decide what you want to paint, if you want to paint a flower or a house or a tree or people, but this is a decision that you make. For the second session of next week's class, please complete the chart about voluntary and involuntary actions on page 10 in the science textbook. Complete the exercise about sensory nerves on page 11 in the science textbook. Classify the words into stimulus and response on page 14 in the science textbook. Solve the true or false quiz on page 15 in the science textbook. Enjoy doing these tasks. Thank you.